You're welcome to the African Nutrition Society podcast at the pre-conference School Health and Nutrition workshop happening before the African Nutrition Conference. And we have here Dr. Keiron Audain. Dr. Keiron Audain is a nutrition and agric research professional. He holds a PhD in human nutrition from the University of KwaZulu-Natal and is experienced in the design, coordination, and evaluation of nutrition and agriculture projects, particularly those focusing on vulnerable populations like pregnant women and young children. Dr. Audain has been involved in multi-country and multidisciplinary projects, and his work includes preparing technical reports and desktop reviews. He's an expert in monitoring and evaluation with a strong focus on interventions aimed at improving nutrition and food security across Africa. Dr. Audain, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
I'm pleased that I have you here. And how is the pre-conference going? How has it been so far? Perspectives shared and all?
Oh, it's been very insightful. I've learned quite a lot about the work that is currently being done with regards to school health and nutrition. I think is very, very important, that particular age group. I usually call it the neglected, vulnerable group, because most of the work is being done with children under 5. So it's nice to see some attention being paid to the school-age children.
Right, that's good to know. And we're hoping that these discussions will translate to the ground and also encourage the bottom-up approach to improving school health and nutrition. But please tell us, what are the most effective strategies for integrating nutrition education into food security programs in rural communities across Africa?
Well, I think it's important to, first of all, to utilize the resources that are already there.
Right.
So, for example, utilizing some of the community level structures. So, for example, schools, hospitals, churches, anywhere where the community gathers. Like in those areas can be utilized in terms of providing that nutrition education.
Okay, that sounds like practical, something that we can do easily, but the problem is, are we really doing it? Because I've seen people doing nutrition and health advocacy in schools, in churches, but we don't have our government supporting some of these programs. I personally started nutrition and health advocacy. In fact, I started it out of pocket, and I didn't have any government supporting until I got broke and I stopped. So how you have been involved in developing policies and all that, in this light, how can agriculture policies better support the nutrition needs of vulnerable populations, particularly in low resource settings?
Well, when you're talking about policies, that is at the governmental level. So it's very difficult to do anything without government support. So I think the way how most governments tend to support agriculture is through either subsidy programs as well as extension officers. So if can be a way to incorporate nutrition into those two particular areas, and I think that can make some form of impact. So for example, providing extension workers with knowledge, with nutrition knowledge, training them on nutrition, so they can encourage farmers to grow nutrition-sensitive crops.
Who do we train? Sorry,
the extension officers.
Okay, that is when we have involved government.
Absolutely.
But do we have that currently happening, or we are talking about what should be done?
Well, we need to discuss what should be done. I think in some areas there may be extension officers who are given that nutrition training, but also not just nutrition, but also sustainable agricultural practices like agroecological practices. Those things also contribute to better nutrition outcomes as well, in terms of strengthening the soil with nutrients. When the soil is nutrient rich, the crops are nutrient rich.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And how do we make the soils nutrients rich? In Ghana, for example, we've been talking about galamsey. I don't know whether you've heard about galamsey mining, inappropriate mining, where our water bodies are destroyed, and these minerals or chemicals that are used to do mining go into the soils. These are water bodies, and so they go places and they go into the soils where we grow our crops, and we'll end up consuming these How do you think we can help resolve some of these issues? And also, you have been involved in multi-country projects. Can you share with us some of the successes as well, where some of these insecurity and malnutrition problems have been resolved?
Yeah, so your first question, I think from an agroecological perspective, we can start utilizing more organic compost, for example, organic manure, things that doesn't take away any nutrients from the soil as opposed to like the chemical fertilizers. So I think there's an overdependence on chemical fertilizer, and that really has a negative impact on the soil, in addition to what you mentioned in terms of the mining. So I think more sustainable organic practices that can actually contribute to enriching the soil quality as well. And
even with these toxins, can this natural approach help to neutralize some of these chemicals, or is it going to reduce the effect? And I know obviously we need to fight that practice so that we can prevent.
Absolutely. So actually there's a technique, an agricultural technique that I've recently heard of called phytoremediation, where there's certain trees that you can plant that actually seep those toxic heavy metals out of the soil. So that is something that maybe we, where those areas that are affected, that's something that they could probably look into.
Okay, so they are planted in between the crops, or they have to be planted to treat the soil before?
Yeah, well, planted to treat the particularly polluted soil.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And how long do those trees take to, take out these toxic?
Well, it depends. I'm not entirely sure. Like, it depends on the variety of the tree as well, the type of tree that would make an impact.
Okay, that sounds good actually. There is hope for us to, restore our soil so that we can grow our crops and eat healthy. But that said, about using natural resources, what role do you think traditional agriculture plays in promoting long-term food security, and how can it be safeguarded in the face of modern agricultural challenges, like some of the ones we've mentioned?
Well, I think traditional agricultural practices, it's familiar for one, so farmers will be better able to utilize it and adapt it to their particular situation as well. And then it can also help to reduce certain costs as well, because, for example, if you are producing your own inputs, that can help to reduce some of your costs, some of your startup costs, and that can contribute to better incomes as well for farmers. So I think traditional knowledge in particular is very, very important.
Right.
But then going back to your previous question with regards to my experiences, so in a lot of the projects that I've worked on, what I've seen is that they tend to take a holistic approach. So they tend to incorporate both your agriculture and your health and your nutrition interventions all in one particular community. So they don't just do isolated interventions. They put everything together, and that tends to have a more balanced outcome.
Impact. Yeah. And so you've talked a lot about agriculture right now. So how important do you think collaborations between nutritionists, and I don't know whether we have that collaboration. I don't know how many agriculturists we have in the meeting, but how important do you think the collaborations between the nutritionists and agricultural aspects in these collaborations? How important are they in designing effective food security interventions?
No, I think it's absolutely essential. I mean, collaboration is the way to go because, for example, I think a nutritionist and an agriculture person working together, they can fill knowledge gaps. So there may be things that a nutritionist may not specifically understand in terms of soil health, certain agricultural practices, and vice versa. So I think they can both fill those knowledge gaps, and then that can strengthen whatever project is being implemented.
Right, so we should encourage multi-sectoral approaches as well.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been very insightful, but before we let you go, your final words to our listeners and our viewers.
I think there's a lot of success stories out there that we need to actually pay attention to. And it may not necessarily be a case where we have to reinvent the wheel. We can already see what's working and implement it in different contexts, different communities, and just, continue to build on what is already being done. I think we need to start giving ourselves more credit for the work, the progress that has been made.
We deserve the credits.
Well, not me, but to the people that are implementing. Yeah.
Right. And for me, it's my hope and prayer that all the discussions that go on, all the meetings, the policy development and all that translates to the ground, the bottom, because we have meetings, we develop policies and we go to the ground and we don't really see how these are working. So we hope that this information that we're giving out, as we've heard, there is hope, we can do this. And so we hope that all of this is going to translate into practice, improving school health and nutrition. You've heard for yourself, viewers. Let's all do well. We are a community, we are a people, we are a nation, we are a country. And so let's do well to adopt some of these practical approaches. We used to do home gardening. I remember while growing up, we used to have whatever we learned in school. I remember our agri class, we were taught to grow in boxes. So we would get some compost, some cow dung, and then we mix with the black soil and we grew tomatoes and pepper, and we used it for food, so if we can also cultivate this habit of growing in the house, our small gardens, I think this will bring a lot of light to school health and nutrition. Thank you for watching. Leave your comments in the chat. See you another time.